Recording is on.
Hello and welcome to the DXDAO BizDev call for Monday, 15th of November, 2021. On the agenda today, we have Limo joining the call and sharing a bit about what they're doing. There have been discussions before, but this is a continuation of that. There's a proposal up for stake rewards on Swapper to sort of like mark a collaboration between XDAI Stake and DXDAO. Brief talk about the treasury diversification, and Fluid Drop is going to talk about that. Proceeding with the Pocket Network deal, the Gnosis chain discussion, which is also related to XDAI and Stake. And then under DX events, we have ETH Denver that's happening in February, but I think already we have some plans for that. And then in the DX Ventures opportunities, we're talking to Double and to Atlantis. And yeah, so we can start with the ETH Limo guys, which were lively here in the pre-recording discussion. And yeah, I guess the stage is yours. I think you'll have between 20 to 25 minutes, if that's okay, and leave some room for questions. So
yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here and to talk to everybody and kind of explain what we've been working on. So I've kind of got just a high level overview of it, and then kind of where we want to take this, sort of the goals, how we plan to decentralize this out, and then kind of what the future roadmap looks like. And then we can do a Q&A on that. So I'll start off initially. So we're essentially just right now a public good alternative to ETH.link. As many of you know, ETH.link is pretty unreliable, and when it does work, the performance can be spotty at best. So we saw that there was a need in that space for a public good to sort of service the same sort of IPFS gateway connectivity. There's not really a lot of good native support in browsers for this sort of thing. I know Brave has it, but you still end up relying on ETH.link for the actual resolution at the end of the day. So that's something that ultimately we want to be able to tackle as well and offer a public resolver that, hopefully we could work with Brave and have that introduced as an alternative. But right now, our footprint is pretty small, and we focus specifically on ENS and IPFS. We're going to extend that to Arweave and Skynet at some point here in the near future. A lot of that is just kind of prioritizing development work and that sort of thing. Because right now it's just the two of us that actively work on the project and keep it online. And we've had really good performance and really good uptime. We have a public status cake page that has a couple of tests comparing us to Link versus Limo, and we're pretty much 100% available all of the time. I looked at it this morning, and Link was like at 94% over the past several days. And if you add that up in terms of total availability over a year, it starts getting into days and weeks of downtime, which is pretty unacceptable. It really hurts the web adoption, people feeling comfortable or even knowing that something is actually online or works. If they're getting these weird DNS errors, it obviously doesn't help this to be adopted. And so that was kind of the genesis of this. And it benefits everyone in the space. Just having an alternative. So if Link is not working, switch over, use Limo. It's just a 2-character difference in the URL bar. Or just use Limo exclusively. So the more competition, I think, the better. And we recently open sourced the infrastructure stack that we use to run on this to encourage other people, if they want to bring up their own nodes and run their own domains. That doesn't come without risks per se, though, which is something that we're trying to address as we look at decentralizing this. There definitely is a risk for untrusted gateway operators to potentially man in the middle transactions or serve fake pages and that sort of stuff. And so we're looking at trying to extend as much transparency and auditability into the running of this infrastructure, which it's a unique challenge because it's kind of, it straddles Web 2 and Web 3. And so we just kind of jokingly call it Web 2.5. And so given that it doesn't work sort of in the same way that any of these other protocols operate, where anybody can run a node, participate in it, that sort of thing, because there are, at the end of the day, services that are centralized, whether it be DNS or the ability to issue certificates for this. Because we've got the wildcard, eth.limo, start.eth.limo cert, but then we also issue wildcard subdomain certificates. And we've done that for a number of projects. We're looking at ultimately being able to automate that process. So it's just, a really simple request page, basically. And, we want to use your ENS name as the identity to prove ownership of the ENS domain. And then from there, we can, issue you the certificates automatically. That's, again, a little down the road, because we are very constrained in terms of time and resources on this until we're able to really kind of grow the team out. And the main thing that we want to accomplish with this is to kind of partner with other DAOs and receive grant funding from Ethereum Foundation, IPFS. I'm drawing a blank on the name of their group off the top of my head, but essentially just continue to operate it as a public good, but then eventually extend this out into, we have a pretty cool roadmap where there are feature sets that are, I think if anybody here has done Web 2 development or infrastructure work, there are all kinds of exotic sort of load balancing approaches for application deployments. And so right now that really doesn't exist outside of a local development environment when you're doing your dApp development. And so we want to be able to do things like canary deployments for things like if you wanted to deploy, let's say a new feature version of your site, without actually having to, physically press the button and roll it out and update your content hash and that sort of stuff. So we would be able to, selectively route traffic to an instance of that site, allowing you then to kind of see conversion rates and performance and sort of all of the stuff that, app developers in the 2.0 world are used to doing. And so there's I think a gap there. Link has kind of just been this dumb proxy. And by dumb, I mean, it just doesn't, it only does one thing, and it doesn't even do that very well. But we've seen a need where, these deployments can be costly, and especially for very small teams that may have a shoestring budget that they're trying to do something. And so I think kind of giving some more robust testing capabilities is something that's kind of been missing here. And then we are, very privacy focused. We don't log IP addresses. We don't do browser, fingerprinting or anything like this. The only thing that we can actually see in our logs are what site was requested and then, the HTTP headers that were sent to that. Otherwise, all of the addresses are just completely, they come from the internal gateway addresses of the Kubernetes cluster that we run in. So that's a really nice thing. And we want to be able to kind of keep continuing to give that guarantee that, this is not something that we're interested in selling data from or anything like that. But we do want to extend the ability for site owners to also be able to have some of those anonymized analytics for their pages and actually see, traffic that's coming to it and that sort of thing. Give, rough estimate how many hits you're getting, what browser types are doing this. And ultimately, there's probably room for some more advanced stuff in there in terms of if you wanted to add in sort of like click tracking elements and that sort of thing to your page. Again, all anonymized, but within the context of seeing kind of how users interact with a particular app. Because, UI and user experience is super important, I think, for just about everything. And so without being able to have those kind of live experiments to see how people are interacting with your page, it's kind of a guessing game to see what actually ends up working. So moving on, the kind of next steps that we're looking to do, is really, grant funding, number one. Number two is eventually getting Limo to a point where it can be structured and organized in a DAO. And the way that we've been thinking about approaching this initially for allowing it to be operated in a more decentralized manner would be having sort of a delegate style system where The community would be able to, vote on essentially members that are trusted, that have an interest and a skill set and expertise, and being able to run this kind of infrastructure, and then bringing up their own nodes, and then actually, joining with kind of the quote centralized service in terms of it being added to our DNS records, being able to replicate our IPFS storage layer to them. We use IPFS clustering, so it's pretty easy to bring new nodes in to replicate that, and then certificates. And that's kind of the main security hurdle with all of this, is that given that there has to be a DNS record, because the whole point of Limo is to essentially provide an alternative means of access for standard clients, whatever shape that takes. And so you have to really rely on still the existing sort of Web 2 infrastructure, network components that exist. And so DNS is an issue because that's obviously privileged, and there could be all kinds of bad behavior that happens if you just let anybody tamper with your records. And so the community would have basically a say in nominating people that we could then trust to be included in the record. Certificate issuance is another problem that we've run into as well, for the man-in-the-middle purposes and the things that we've discussed. And then, that's private key material, and that resides in a storage layer that we maintain where, that really has to be something that we flesh out pretty well in terms of letting someone actually be able to replicate those certificates to another instance, another geographic location with the cluster that they want to run to serve that traffic. And so I think there has to be some kind of a vetting process for this. We're not 100% sure what form that would end up taking. But I think at a high level, that kind of accomplishes, it at least continues to foster and sort of, number one, increase Limo's performance, because right now it's running out of a single region. That's not ideal when serving global traffic. So it would be really nice to be able to have other people that can run these nodes in different parts of the world. And we can do some stuff around, geo and latency based routing to try to deliver the best user experience for that. And then, it's an alternative to Link. And so now we've got multiple people that are in a community where there's some transparency and some auditability that are able to run these nodes themselves. And I think that's kind of the first step for this until we can get the resources and the talent to help us brainstorm alternatives to this. And we've got some interesting ideas that how you could do this with, clients that already have the ability to kind of natively access some of these protocols, where we could continue to do some of this kind of load balancing stuff and intelligent traffic routing for some of these resources at a protocol layer that we could end up developing. I think that's, this is all speculation at that point. These are just things that we have thrown around with ideas. Again, we're very limited on resources and being able to achieve that. But, the one thing that we can achieve is to continue to operate this as a reliable service, and then attempt to, decentralize and federate it out, essentially. That's kind of it at a super high level. We do have, some roadmap stuff on our website. If you go to ETH.limo, we've got a link to a Medium article that kind of goes into more detail about some of the things that we're thinking about implementing here. But I think I touched on a fairly high level overview of it. So I'd love to kind of field any questions that anybody might have.
I just have a general question. I'm wondering if you're at all concerned about maybe some big internet giants like Cloudflare starting to resolve ETH domains to IPFS or something like that. And if that happens, what do you think that would do to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, they already do pretty much de facto or that capability already. And it's really ironic to me that, given that they're a multi-billion-dollar company with a dedicated team working on this, the performance has still been pretty bad. And granted, I understand they're at a much larger scale than us. But I think the kind of main thing with that is that Cloudflare is, it's a very centralized giant. It's kind of like the equivalent of Microsoft coming in and saying we're a friend of open source software now. I think that there are definitely some ulterior motives here, as with them trying to appear as this friend to the D-Web and decentralization. I mean, it's really unfortunate that a majority of internet traffic already flows through them today, so they kind of view themselves as being naturally positioned as the best alternative to be able to connect the dots between these various protocols and things like that. So I mean, they're already doing that, and I think the best thing that we can do is just promote Limo as this alternative. And once we have complete feature parity with Cloudflare, specifically around the actual ENS resolution over the DNS protocol, which is how Brave interacts with it today. So that's, if you just go to site xyz.eth in Brave, you're talking to Cloudflare to do that resolution, and then you're just using your local IPFS client to actually then go and retrieve that stuff. So we want to be able to do something very similar to that, and actually work with Brave and Puma and any of these other browsers that are starting to look into offering ENS resolution, and essentially get ourselves listed as an alternative provider that you can select from that drop-down box. Right now it is entirely Cloudflare that's doing all of this, and so that kind of hurts I think the spirit and the ethos of decentralization, especially not having alternatives to things. And so I think if we can kind of just frame it within the context that this is a giant corporation that is attempting to be your friend, whereas we have a little more of a community behind it. There's a face to it. There, you can interact with us. There's going to be oversight in terms of governance and this sort of thing. I think it presents a much more attractive use case, compelling use case, than just doing sort of what's the easiest, low hanging fruit, which would be using, a monolithic service like Cloudflare.
Makes sense. Thanks, man.
I have a question for DXDAO. So as far as y'all got the ENS airdrop, and so I'm in contact with Neiman almost all day long at Easteroids, and so Coinbase has now been delegated. They have 200, 300,000 votes. And so in order for somebody to propose a vote, you need 100,000 people to delegate to you. And originally Limo, I think, had about 10,000 people that delegated to it, or 10,000 votes. And Neiman, I think he was sitting somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000, but then a bunch of people sold their tokens, and it knocked mine down to or Limos down to 4,000. And so Neiman and myself, we have both not delegated to anyone yet, because it seems like it's more advantageous to delegate to a single entity that has everybody's best interest and can propose the similar ideas and support each other. And so, Neiman seems to not necessarily really want to be a delegate per se now, that it seems like, because it's so much to keep up with. But I was just wondering if y'all had any ideas, or how is that possible to delegate with the tokens in your treasury?
So I think, Dave said this, it's like the DAO is like a smart contract, right? And then you can't sign messages from it. And then I don't think we can delegate from the treasury, but I do think probably everyone on this call, or everyone in DXDAO does have some ENS. And then I agree that we should probably delegate to the same person. For example, I delegated to Neiman, actually. And then, I'm wondering, if we could have one delegate representing, I don't know, the interests of DXDAO, of Limo, maybe a few others, so we can actually have a voice. So yeah.
Yeah, that's our biggest concern. It's just that it's, you have a lot of these personalities that have been voted up, but they don't, and I'm not saying they're all bad, but it's basically, who has the most Twitter followers, who's more famous, not even necessarily do they even understand how ENS works. Yeah, it boggles my mind that Coinbase is up there. And I did see Nick posted something last night. There's some method of like you delegating your tokens to him, and then there's like a private snapshot where you can create like potential proposals that then get voted on. But yeah, I mean that's I think Neiman's on a 2-day holiday, or he's hoping to take 2 days off. But this is something we had discussed, just trying to group our tokens together so that way we could have a voice.
Well, ENS would certainly not be a monopolist for long. You know, just a week after launching, they're now second after Uniswap on open organizations in terms of treasuries. They have like 5 billion worth of ENS tokens. But what is Limo's game in terms of competing with ENS? Because people kind of like felt as if they missed out on a chance to be a part of ENS. And if you play this right, you can win those people. And I believe it will be crucial for you to nail governance specifically, because the way ENS are doing it with registering an entity on the Cayman Islands and then doing delegation, I don't think this would work. And DXDAO can help you with this. So what do you think about this?
Well, I wouldn't say we're competing with ENS by any means. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the Caymans concept and all of that, I totally agree.
And yeah, in terms of help from DXDAO, that's we would love to have that kind of assistance here. You know, we're kind of new to sort of working within the DAO space and how to organize ourselves within that. So I think leveraging the expertise of this community to help structure us in a manner that is the most compelling to the community with the greatest amount of oversight and accountability is one of our sort of prime concerns here.
So you know, we're talking about ENS token, and yeah, we need to figure out like what the ENS DAO does. Can DXDAO delegate correctly? You know, when you claim the token, you actually delegate at the time you claim the token, and that's a transaction. So I'm not sure if you delegate with a signature or if you actually do a transaction. It's not clear.
You can on Vote with Tally, you can go physically, and the way they did it was a little odd. They have it with the airdrop, but you can also go to the ENS governance page on Vote with Tally and then also delegate from there.
Is it a transaction or is it a signature?
I believe it probably is a transaction. I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, I think
it's a transaction.
If it is a transaction, I think DXDAO can figure out should figure out a way how to delegate our tokens, because otherwise we talk about doing governance and we never actually use our tokens. So we can either put them in a multi-sig and use them, or we can figure out how to do it from DXDAO. But separately, one thing I'm interested in, because we currently, like, I don't know if you saw a recent article about how we use ENS, but we, you know, like we're using mainly IPFS, but you mentioned Skynet and Arweave as well. So really, it would be amazing if DXDAO could have its front ends deployed on IPFS, Arweave, and Skynet. And then if like ETH.limo, which really, if like one wasn't accessible or something, or like you could give people the choice to choose where they want it to be served or something. So like making it more robust, basically. Because if right now we're using IPFS, but like it's like run for like free, and like there's no financial incentive, and you know, if people stop pinning stuff, then it doesn't work, right? So it would be awesome if like IPFS didn't work or couldn't find the IPFS, then it would find the Skynet one, and then if it can't find the Skynet one, it would find the Arweave one. That would just make it like way more durable. And I don't know if ETH.limo, you mentioned those like in the long-term plan, but is that something that's like technically even possible? Like if one doesn't work, serve the other one. If that one doesn't work, serve the third one. Because that would be super cool if that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like that idea for resiliency. It definitely makes sense. I think it is technically possible to do. I would need to think through like what the mechanics of that would be, because we would probably need to have some sort of like active health checking system essentially behind the scenes. And then, we would have, which we're already in the process of developing, basically like a custom router that would be able to handle the Skynet, the Arweave, and IPFS content hashes and send them to the respective backends. So I think we could definitely extend that model and, maybe have that as an opt-in style service. And, we just basically track the state of the availability, whether IPFS, Arweave, Skynet, whatever, for a given site for someone that opts into that. And then we could make intelligent decisions around where we serve that traffic from in the event that one is unavailable.
Yeah, if that was something that like comes about, I mean, DXDAO would be a big supporter of that with .limo. It would get, and then also Skynet and Arweave would obviously be interested in that as well. But I mean, all 5 parties actually could like announce this as like this is how it really should work at the end of the day. So that would be pretty cool if that comes about.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. Thank you for that. I just made a note in my notebook, and as we start building this kind of router out, I'll try to assess the feasibility of that and see if it's something that we could roll out as part of the V1 for both of those features, or if it's something that we need to kind of take a little more time to think through. But yeah, I appreciate it.
And then I guess the other thing, DXDAO, like I think DXDAO in general is really into this. What is the best way to support? You mentioned grants. Are you you already got a grant obviously from ENS, I believe, but yeah, would a DXDAO grant to like help support and build this out? Is that something that would be next steps?
Yeah, that would be ideal. And then as well as helping us source the talent and contributors that can help us continue to build this. I think that's one area that's been pretty hard for us in terms of most of my network is sort of the Web 2 startup scene. And I've mentioned this to people I work with and friends of mine and stuff, seeing if they would be interested in contributing to it. And I can't really get a lot of traction. I think it's still kind of opaque for people that aren't in the day-to-day of this scene. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the grant funding would be awesome, and then sourcing the talent, I think those are kind of and then also the helping us with the organizational structure of the DAO. Those are, I think, the 3 areas that we kind of need the most focus in right now.
Cool. And if did you also mention Ethereum Foundation? I think, but yeah, is there like a structure you plan to like put together for like what you're asking for around like grants? Like you have a goal of raising X number in the next 3 months for grants so that you can execute kind of this sample roadmap or something. So I know it's not an investment, but something that would outline everything that we could share with the community, and you could also share with Ethereum Foundation. And I think there's a lot of people that would want to give money or grants to support this type of thing. So any structure around it would be ideal that could be shared across the public.
Yeah, for sure. We've been working on one of those privately in terms of kind of a generic grant proposal pitch deck sort of thing. We're not quite ready to release that yet. We were doing a lot of work over the last week around sort of preparing to try to become an ENS delegate and open sourcing the software and stuff. But yeah, that's something that I think we can have put together within the next week or 2 and get that over to you guys for your consideration, and then shopping that around and seeing who's interested.
Sweet.
Awesome. Just looking at sort of like the ETH-Limo contract, we see like I'll just paste this in the chat. I see that you guys received the grant and then you guys sold some. Do you want to clarify that? I'm assuming it's like to pay some of like the contributors, but yeah, because I'm just like looking at the ETH-Limo ENS.
It is, yeah, it's definitely so we didn't get into crypto until really the beginning of this year. So we're not sitting on massive bags of ETH or, let's put it this way, like there's not a ton of money. And so somebody that, basically has been wanting to back us, but we haven't accepted any money or funding outside of it, kind of nudged me one day and basically said, hey, it may not be a bad idea just to go ahead and take some profit, take what you need, and that way you can sleep at night and not have to worry as much.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it makes sense. Like, yeah. I mean, if you got a grant, then some of it is supposed to obviously fund, the people who are working on the project. So, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone else have any other questions?
We're actually meeting with Brantley in person. Let's see, next weekend. He ironically does not live that far away, maybe 45 minutes. So we're gonna go have breakfast with him.
Oh, nice. Don't dox yourselves. Yeah, so I don't know. I think the overall sentiment is that this is something really cool. And yeah, you guys are obviously committed to like similar values of DXDAO to do with decentralization, and DXDAO is obviously like a big user of both ENS and .link at the moment. So yeah, I mean there was a discussion once about spinning up our own DXDAO sort of relayer service or gateway, but it never really materialized. And so yeah, I don't know, maybe collaborating, giving a grant or something of that sort might make sense here.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested in maybe running a Limo node and participating in our infrastructure, I'd be more than happy to work with whoever would be taking on that work. It's pretty easy to get spun up, and then you guys could maybe be one of the first partners in terms of actually helping us decentralize this.
Yeah, so I think the thing is with the DXDAO is that the DAO itself wouldn't be able to run the node, right? Like it's going to have to be like some of the individuals here. Yeah, so I'm probably going to be up for running one, just because I have like a dedicated machine now for running things. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else would be interested.
Yeah, as long as you can have a static IP address and decent amount of storage. I think our IPFS cluster right now is sized to 100 gigs. Just kind of starting out. Those are really the main requirements for it. The actual compute resources, I think we run right now like an average load. The last time I looked was about 4 cores being used consecutively, but we've got the ability to scale up to I think about 16 or 24 for burst traffic.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think maybe other people here would be interested as well.
Yeah, potentially would be interested. That would be cool.
Yeah, just reach out to us in our Discord, and we're happy to move that forward and do what we can. And thanks, seriously, thank you for the time. This was great. Really glad that we could introduce ourselves and introduce you guys to the project and kind of talk through it a little more. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for the time, and yeah, always happy to meet with like-minded people in the ecosystem, people who care about decentralization. Yeah. Okay. So I guess moving on. Maybe Dave, do you want to quickly talk about the ETH 2.0, like treasury diversification?
Sure. So, well, I don't really have much of an update to give. I was going to post the forum post last week, but then I got banned from the forum because I had a new account. But just cleaning up the post, and I'm trying to put in some like votes, as you can vote in the DAO Talk forum, and I'm planning to post that tomorrow morning. So yeah, just keep an eye out and looking forward to hear community feedback on it. So that's it for me.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was talking. Do we want to talk about Pocket Network real quick?
Yeah, so the next steps after the good conversations we had with Pocket Network were, like, obviously there's like a partnership, maybe, you know, we need some of their tokens in the long run, but the immediate step was really like you would want your project or the DAO or our products to start using Pocket Network. And my understanding is, like, everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, we've integrated Pocket Network. Like, I think we've integrated it, but we're not using it. So it's like a technical question. Like, do we start sending all traffic through Pocket Network instead of like Infura, or do we do both? And then how do we start? Like, could we do that with Swapper, which is the main used product, and then you know, show that Swapper is using Pocket, and then once you do that and you start sending like a more traffic, then there's like a gauge at what's needed, you know, add some big buffer to that, and then like get the integration going, and then that's where we like become part of the using the actual ecosystem. But it's kind of it's more of a technical like unanswered question of like, how do we want to start using this instead of the centralized version? I think the answer is yes. And then, like, what needs to happen to actually make it happen?
Yeah, so I think, like, maybe this is just a decision, and maybe this, you know, is for the dev call, but I would say, you know, we can add either a subdomain for Swapper that uses it, just to get it going and make sure that it all works. And then, you know, figure out if it works, then we could like integrate it into like the main one, or I don't know, maybe there's like a dev environment that we could use with Pocket. So yeah, I guess Ross has a question about the limits. I wouldn't make it as a default. Yeah, I wouldn't make it as default just to start with, but I would just create like a version with that as default. That's kind of, I don't know, on a different subdomain or something.
Yeah, I mean, we could even we already have develop and master QA,
yeah,
like deployment, so we could do it there. I think if it works well, there's no reason we can't just make it default as well for DXvote. It's maybe a better test place than Swapper, potentially.
Yeah, like doing some step to move towards a testing situation where we're actually using it, even if it's small at first, would be like the interesting next step, because obviously they want like more traffic. It's a chicken, and they have a chicken and egg problem where no one's going to use this thing unless it's like people are sending it traffic, it's proving it's working, and then it becomes like the alternative instead of the centralized versions. And so we need to, if we want to support that, it's kind of like supporting ETH.limo. It's like we you know, okay, we're going to have strong beliefs like we should stop using Google. We should actually start using decentralized things whenever we can. We actually have to like take these steps, even though they make it a little harder. And so I guess Pocket would be another, like, do we need a signal proposal to like integrate this technically? Like, does DXDAO want to start using Pocket Network, or like, do we already assume, all right, we already do, let's integrate it technically?
I think that would just be for marketing if it was a proposal, like to prove that we want it, I guess. But we can even start doing it on for the cache updating in DX4. That uses it's pretty intensive for like we use Alchemy a lot right now. So we could try it out with Pocket, and just kind of a good stress test for it.
So we use Alchemy like the
oh yeah, sorry, Alchemy the RPC, not Alchemy the deprecated governance app.
Yeah, which is super centralized, right? Alchemy.
I think it's the same as Infura, right? I don't know if it has better limits than Infura, from what I understand, which is why we use it.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess a signal proposal just a round of like why DX. I mean, it's kind of an article too. It's like, well, why is DXDAO doing this? This would be similar to like the ENS article or something. It's like, well, why does DXDAO want to use a decentralized data server or RPC? And even
I've seen Pocket tweet out quite a lot of like people that start using them as well. So could get some exposure there as well, and maybe point to the proposal from there or the article.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. So I guess we have a next step there. Sky, you're going to be able to make that signal proposal, or?
Yeah, if we want to write that article / proposal, which could be both, as a, it really is like explaining to the world why we want to do this. Whether like we're doing it super fast and stuff is not the most important part, but the fact that we want to push in that direction is like the important thing to communicate. So yeah, Chris and I could draft that, and we could get that proposal up and published almost probably as an article too, and then we'll share it with their team. Yeah, so that's a good next step. As long as we technically have this ability, it doesn't sound like it's very hard. It's like a change you make, but we don't want to like push for it and then run into a wall where we like don't do anything. We just say we want to do it and we don't actually do it. Then that usually is a negative thing. So.
And Sky, I can't remember. Yeah. They would stake on our behalf. Is that right? There doesn't need to be any like staking of the token.
Exactly. So
to use the service
in the short term, to use the service, you need to have Pocket Token. The only way to get Pocket Token is to buy it from them and then promise you will utilize it for staking. But while you're ramping up and testing it and showing them the traffic that you can send, I'm just a little bit worried we might not be sending them too much traffic unless we get, thousands of more people using DXVote, which would be cool. But if it's intensive, then that's good. Like we want to use it as much as we can. Then at some point, once we're working and using their system, we would basically purchase Pocket Token from them. And one way they do it is a token swap. So maybe DXD for Pocket Token to like align interests and do a cool token swap. Theoretically, we could all just buy it for dollars too. We don't have to give them DXD. It depends. That would be like a separate decision, but we can't even get to any of those interesting like collaboration token swap points until we're like using the product in some manner, basically. So that's the important part to start with. Cool. So if DXVote uses RPCs like heavily, that's a good internal use case.
Yeah, I guess we have less users, but each user is going to use it a lot more than our other apps.
Sweet.
And like updating the cache uses it for like half an hour. So.
Yeah, there are some people in DXDAO that I know don't like using DXVote because they have to let it load for 2 minutes on their computer.
Who are these people?
No, it's a valid criticism. That's kind of what the like stuff we were talking about with like owning our data layer with ENS. That makes updating our data layer a lot faster. And so that should, once we get the process down a bit more, we're kind of sorting out hashing with updating the cache currently. It's a bit complicated, and Madhusha's actually working on it right now, making it simpler. But once we do that, we're kind of aiming for at least weekly updates to the cache. And just a tip for anyone that's like annoyed by that, it caches locally, like in between the like proper cache refreshes that are weekly. And so if you want DXVote to be fast, like in the morning, load it up, and then like leave it in the background or close it and open it back up again, it'll load faster.
I guess once we have the forums in there as well, like that should be like, I'm going to open the forums and discuss there. So
so like the more we get people using DXVote, the better experience they'll have essentially. And that combined with like updating an ENS to update the cache is kind of like the best part, like what we want to be at. So we're just trying to get there right now.
Yeah, awesome. So like there's like a Gnosis chain discussion, which I don't know if we have time for right now, but it's like very lively. And I think we should talk about ETH Denver. Yeah, I don't know who's been doing I guess Melanie, you've been talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. So I'll just kind of give everybody just like a brief, tell everybody briefly about ETH Denver. So it's a conference and hackathon. It's going on for 3 days in February in Denver, Colorado. That's in the US for those who don't know. It's from Friday, February 18th to Sunday, February 20th. That's the main event. But on both ends of the conference, there are a bunch of like side events, like mini conferences, talks, and workshops going on. I personally probably would go for like the whole week, or I don't know, maybe longer. But there are quite a few DXDAO contributors who've already expressed interest in going. It will probably attract up to I think around 5,000 people next year to the area for it. So it could definitely be a great opportunity for networking and exposure for us. And I mean, I think of course DXDAO has an opportunity to make an impact by just attending the event, but we also could support the conference by sponsoring. On Friday, Sky shared some documentation kind of explaining a little bit more about what DXDAO can possibly do to sponsor. I was a little bit later in the day, so I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to see it, but I think we should discuss if sponsoring ETH Denver is interesting to everyone. I mean, it just kind of getting a gauge of everybody in the call now. What do you kind of think about DXDAO sponsoring ETH Denver? Just kind of.
So just some more background. This is one of the biggest hackathons, and real core hackathons. It's free for hackers to attend. ETH Denver. It's all paid for and funded by sponsors. It's the biggest one and most important one in the US, probably. It's always been a great event. It attracts people, people get aware of our product. The question is, does DXDAO have stuff that people are able to hack on? And I think something like DXVote, if it's to the point where we think it could be by February, that becomes one of the most interesting things. Yeah, to DXVote and Carrot together for people to be able to hack on. We entered the ETH Online hackathon, and there's not it's at this point Swapper and Omen, it's not clear how do you hack on Swapper and Omen. DXVote and Carrot become more interesting opportunities for hackers. They could put Carrot into so many different things, not even related to DXDAO, right? So the question is, do we want to have a presence at hackathons? And if so, this is a good one in the US to definitely have a presence. And it's also a very strong community, which DXDAO is already close with, and we have personal relationships with the people there. We know it's the same people as Opolis. We invested in Opolis. There's a whole big interconnection between Buffacorn Ventures. They're doing really interesting stuff with in the state of Colorado, to become as a very tech forward state. And so DX Ventures could get involved in deals that they basically created Buffacorn Ventures, because all of the value that they were producing from something like ETH Denver was just kind of disappearing afterwards. They get the bounties and then these things disappear, but there's interesting projects and stuff that come out of these hackathons. And so now they have a fund to invest in and provide money into projects that come out of ETH Denver and related. That's something ETH Lisbon really didn't have, right? If you did a good thing, now people are looking how do I get money to build this thing out? Do I get grants, whatever? And so they're building a whole infrastructure related to that. So DXDAO has the opportunity to get as close to this ecosystem and to ETH Denver and become really a name that is always referred to when people think of ETH Denver. And so to participate in that, which is partly support of paying for the actual event, but then to be involved in the hackathon and have the right to put bounties and then have like a table where hackers could come and talk to you, that's like a sponsorship cost of like around 20K. We're going to get a little bit, but if we want the table, it's probably 20K. But we are already very late, so like most things are already taken. We got a placeholder because we know them well, but we would need to decide rather quickly, and not even sure if we can get a table at this point.
Maybe I want to add a few things. Like ETH Denver has been like historically like a place where a lot of like new products are being launched, and just as Kai was thinking, I think maybe we should launch DXvote like officially as a platform by then. I don't know if this is feasible, Ross. But yeah, like we launched DXvote as, the next generation platform or whatever, and then the ETH Denver hackathon could be used to like build on top of this features and stuff like that.
Yeah, it might be tight, but I wouldn't say it's unreasonable to think about and maybe launch a version of it.
And like the ETH Denver people are super up for like incorporating like the cutting edge technologies, trying and experimenting with things. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have met like John Paller and the rest of that team. They're like really believers in like the whole ETH ecosystem and whatnot. And yeah, even like I'm not going to be able to make it to ETH Denver, but I still think like DXDAO should be sponsoring and like being a big participant in this.
Also in favor of sponsoring it. Like, yeah, these events are very important for the ecosystem, and they do a lot, for everybody. So helping to make them possible is a good thing for us to do.
And Geronimo and some people, it's good to ask questions, and like it's hard to understand the value of like just giving money to an event to help put it on. And they have a lot of big sponsors. There's a lot of big projects with a lot of money, right? Like Uniswap and Aave and these guys, like they're the headline sponsors of 1inch, right? So DXDAO, we are never going to be in a position to compete with some of the biggest guys, right? But being like a main participant, and we have probably better relationships in most of these projects with these guys. But yeah, it's like you could send everyone from DXDAO and try to send them to ETH Denver, but and not support it. But if DXDAO is in a position to be able to support and then get all the benefits of that, and that's like some of the VIP tickets to be with all the insiders, that's I mentioned that DXDAO has like a desire to maybe have like our own kind of like a drinks event around ETH Denver. I mean, it's gonna be such a busy week, like it's gonna be crazy. But like we didn't do in Lisbon, we did obviously the Omen prediction market panel, which was cool, but we could even do something bigger where we hand invite everyone that we actually want to show up to the event, which it would be a good thing. And when I mentioned like doing that outside, because we know them so well, like John even said, we could even have like during ETH Denver, and no one is supposed to throw any events like during the hackathon, but because we are close with them, like we could have like a private like VIP social hour within ETH Denver walls, and we could handpick like who we want to invite to that, and that's like something that no one else could even do. So there's like opportunities like that as well, but it's hard to ask for getting everyone there, getting special privileges and stuff without showing some like sponsorship support. It just makes it much better for all parties, I think.
Yeah, we need to put some skin in the game, right? And it's like, I agree with Geronimo though, that the thing I care most about is just getting our people in the door, right? But like presumably, being a sponsorship will like help with that, right? Like I care less about the so-called like VIP tickets as much as just getting everybody there and being a part of it. But yeah, sure. Good stuff.
Yeah, and just I think with Lisbon, we had some experience with this. We can see what works and what didn't. And I think kind of everyone probably in agreement that like what we had at the Taoist was like a nice setup and kind of way of framing DXDAO. I felt like we were really there. People were coming up to us. So trying to mimic that. And I also support the idea of some event during the week because it would be good to do that. And Denver's got some cool places we can probably find something.
So we're still seeing if we can get a table or a booth. We're not sure yet. If we can, we will push for it, but there's a chance because there's also like hackathon, like all the hackers are spread out across all the tables. So you could theoretically like set up a DXDAO area like on the normal tables without getting like one of the sponsorship booths, which is where they're like handing out all their shirts and shit. So you can like make your own table kind of. If we didn't get a table, you can always make a DXDAO area within this big venue, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't even think the sponsor venues are actually that nice in this because they are like on the way. But it's just like nice to have like a home base to like show a force and kind of how that attracts people.
And so, yeah, I guess we need like soft consensus that we want to go ahead with this, and then we can do an on-chain proposal to actually pay the money, but obviously that's going to take a little more time. So a forum post like where people could comment, I guess, showing support or why they don't want to do it, and then we might have to like tell them to vote in the forum post would be good. We might have to like pull the trigger before we actually have an on-chain proposal to actually like move money or anything. Just to keep in mind, there like I think there is a plan for the Taoist to have an event. There's a Gitcoin, a really interesting Gitcoin event, which is like the day before Denver. Then there's also like if we wanted to participate in like alongside Buffacorn Ventures to have like to invest in projects that come out of the hackathon also and stuff like that, we could go as deep as we want. And then Spork, just last thing is Spork DAO is like an actual real DAO that real DAO compared to DXDAO, maybe not, but like it's a DAO that governs all of these 4 different things that that crew is organizing and puts together, really heavily, obviously centered in the state of Colorado, but there is an opportunity to like do a closer collaboration with Spork DAO, like maybe a small token swap or something, which is interesting. So Gitcoin, which is a great party in the space, they are doing the same. Like they're a big sponsor of ETH Denver. They're investing alongside Buffacorn Ventures. They're doing a token swap with Spork DAO and Gitcoin DAO. And then they're like one of the main kind of partners of their whole ecosystem. And DXDAO is like a DAO could become, I think, like the main DAO partner within their ecosystem if we desired. So that'd be cool.
Sky, I think while you were talking, we kind of came to an agreement that we should probably move along with the vote directly and not spend time on any posting.
Okay, well, you mean a vote on the forum post?
Yeah, no, with a non-chain vote.
There's a poll in the Jitsi chat as well. So far,
it's binding.
And, yeah.
Believe it or not, this is actually more important than on-chain. We now vote on Jitsi.
Okay. Yeah, I'll summarize as much public information as possible on a forum post and include a poll there, which can reaffirm this, I guess.
Something funny, I just realized we could all log into Jitsi with fake names and don't know who's who and do a poll that's anonymous.
Just like ZK rollups, basically the same thing.
Even better.
ZK Jitsi. Yes. And then I guess I know we're a little over time. Last thing, the on snapshot above in this chat, there's a snapshot link. If you have stake, go and vote. There is it's a general ask, and I know like swapper token price and distribution, everything's moving around, but I guess the summary ask is like to get $200,000 of stake to be used as rewards, and invite their community to like help, propose different projects and tokens to receive some of those rewards. Some could be single stake rewards, some could be multi, with like swapper and stake token together, which would be cool, which we haven't really done so far. I mean, we have done some tests in the past, but yeah, hopefully that passes and we can get stake sent. The way that it would work technically is they would just probably send the stake directly to DXDAO, and then we would want to use it in the same manner that we're using our swapper on XDAI chain. So that would be cool. And while the whole Gnosis chain discussion happens, which is going to go on and on for a while, probably, this will happen in the meantime to get something going. ETH Russia would be great.
I would not go to ETH Russia.
Why?
I mean, I feel like this is the place where you get kidnapped and you have your crypto like wrenched out of you.
I don't think so.
It's more the opposite. I went for the World Cup, man, and they will make sure that nothing happens to any foreigner, because like hooligans were not allowed to go within 10 kilometers of the stadium. Like they know people are going to be watching them. It's actually quite safe. But I'm not a fan of Russia at all. But like it was very safe at the World Cup. It was crazy.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap this call up, or do you want to continue chatting? I don't know. We can stop the recording as well and continue chatting.